since baseball's been your forte, did you grow up playing baseball, or was your family baseball fans, or how did you kind of get into that?
So I grew up playing baseball. My older sister played baseball first before me, just because she was older.
Hmm.
But started off in Virginia Beach playing t-ball for the Dodgers. Um, and then I just transitioned with the age groups.
Hmm.
But I started. My dad didn't really play baseball. Nobody in my even extended family really played baseball. It was mainly soccer and lacrosse. And so when I started getting older, um, to coach pitch and then kid pitch, I was getting really good.
Hmm.
Um, I would play travel all stars for coach pitch and kid pitch, and then we moved out to Washington State, and uh, I again kept succeeding and improving, and so I'd make all star teams, and I'd to a point where I was getting looked at by like high school coaches. So again, that warm and fuzzy feeling. Uh, but unfortunately, I had to take a step away.
Why was that?
Um, Unfortunately, in 2007, the summer of 2007, July 26th to be exact, um, I went to a Red Sox Mariners game in Seattle. Lovely day, nice garlic fries and a cheesesteak. But on the way back home on the ferry, my mom noticed a rash on my skin, and we made our way quickly to Bremerton Naval Hospital, about 15 minutes away from where I had lived.
Hmm.
And random woman just out of nowhere walks by and says, "Oh, that's petechiae. That's a rash commonly found on elderly patients or people with liver problems." And so they immediately uh, emergency vehicled me 45 minutes away to Tacoma uh, Madigan Army Hospital. And later that night, early morning, I was diagnosed with a liver disease called autoimmune hepatitis.
What does that um, entail, kind of? What is, for people who have no idea what that is?
Yeah, which is probably a lot. Uh, so, autoimmune hepatitis is this inflammation of the liver in which the liver attacks itself. Um, so, when I got diagnosed, I I didn't know what was going on, um, what to do,
Hmm.
what what my body was doing. I mean, I didn't have any medical knowledge. Um, I was told to just take these new pills um, and be careful. So it was a little scary because I was just 11 years old at the time,
Hmm.
and so being told that I had a liver disease, I felt like the world was crashing down on me.
Sure.
But over the next several years, and even to this point, I've really learned that there's people with far worse and that deal with their own problems and situations that everyone's got to deal with in life.
Yeah, definitely. That's a great outlook to have. Definitely going forward with something like that. I know so many people are dealing with so much, even just with just COVID now, people losing their jobs, and all sorts of family members being sick with COVID, and other things like that. Um, it's definitely a great outlook to have. It probably keeps you positive. I would think.
No, definitely.
And so then you ended up moving to Virginia, and it wasn't what, 2 years after that, about.
So, while I was still in Washington, in 2009, I was diagnosed again with rheumatoid arthritis.
That's
Again, found,
normally in elderly people, isn't it?
yep.
So you just got very unlucky, I guess. Did is that
Yeah,
is that the case?
yeah, I found my way into Benjamin Button's body. Um, but but I was diagnosed with that, and that's when I really was forced to take a step away, and I
Mhm.
had to stop. Is because my bones and my cartilage were just deteriorating, and so I couldn't run as fast as I once had. My strength had started to go away, and I was noticing subtly like, hey, I'm not going to be able to compete, and I don't want to be on the bottom tier looking up. I want to be on the up end looking down.
Yeah, of course.
And so that was in Washington State. And then about a year and a half, 2 years later, I made my way out to Fairfax, Virginia, where I spent 2 years there.
Hmm.
um, had a couple of medical stumbles, um, like a couple seizures out of nowhere, of course. Um, but that's when, again, 2 years later, I made my way where I am now, Ashburn.
So your first year at our high school was your first year senior year or was it junior year?
No, it was 10th grade. We had
10th grade,
English
that's right.
together.
That's right. I remembered it was English. I didn't remember which year it was though. Yeah, I remember first meeting you and you were super into sports. I think we got along quite well a little bit.
Yeah,
But I remember we would like play basketball at the gym like during PE or whatever, and I could always tell that you wanted to play,
right.
and people would try and convince you to play. I probably tried to convince you to play multiple times, and
Yeah,
I
but
think being high schoolers, we just didn't have an understanding of what you were going through, really.
yeah, it was a difficult time. I mean, it wasn't difficult at that point, not until really senior year, because I, for some reason, couldn't really move. I didn't have the strength, didn't have the
Hmm.
capability, no matter how hard I tried.
Yeah,
And
I
so
remember that.
I had to move around in a wheelchair, and even the second half of my first year at George Mason, I had to do the same thing, which was difficult because people look at you. I mean, it's just a fact.
Hmm.
And so it's difficult, but you learn how to really take it in and just deal with what you have.
Definitely. So what is the sort of are there treatments for these things, or are they kind of more just managing the pain, or how does it kind of work for you? Because obviously you're not in a wheelchair now. Last we
Mhm.
talked, even before we talked the other day, um, as we've been talking, I know you haven't been in a wheelchair for quite some time. So things are obviously a little bit better, at least.
Yeah, so I would say since my second year at Mason, or like 4 years ago, yeah, I like to take the long route. Um, Things have been better, especially this past year. I've really upped up my strength and started working out daily. Um, so that's really improved. And so as long as I keep moving,
Mm-hmm.
um, I'm good.
That's good because it. So when you let's see, sophomore year of high school, you were moving around pretty well, I think, from what I remember.
Yeah.
Is that true? And then it kind of went a little bit downhill as we went through high school, and obviously, like you mentioned, senior year you're in the wheelchair. So when you went down into that, like downhill into that, was it because you weren't moving around as much as you could, or did the sicknesses kind of just take the turn that way, or
Yeah. So um, with my illnesses, there aren't really any or there are long-term treatments, but there's no cure. Um, so for years we've been trying to perfect this like recipe for how much prednisone, how much of this medicine, how much, and so um, it it really just took a turn for the worse, um,
mm-hmm.
at a again out of left field, but it it really made me think like, hey, uh, what am I doing when I have this strength? when I have the capability to walk, to run, to use it, but also I've got to be, I got to know what my limits are.
Sure. Has that been kind of a work in progress as well the last few years?
Yeah.
So what does a normal sort of workout for you look like?
Um, so usually, I'll stretch first
Mm-hmm.
thing. Um, and then if it's a nice day, um, I'll just spend an hour and a half shooting hoops
Mm-hmm.
in my driveway. If it's not nice, and even when it is, I'll usually head down to my basement uh, to do some bench press, and then sometimes a couple days a week I'll run for a mile,
Mm-hmm.
and then I usually finish up before I go to sleep. I'll do 50 to 100 sit-ups.
Good. That's solid, man. That's solid. It keeps the muscles firing,
Yeah.
keeps your body solid. I think